people have been fired from this daycare in Pataskala after a case of child abuse against a 1-year-old. Wait until you hear what this woman is accused of doing to this child. The Licking County Sheriff's Office says it all happened here at the Over the Rainbow Children's Center, a daycare center, and they've arrested Katelyn Strohacker, a 23-year-old woman from Granville who worked here. What we don't know is how parents became aware of this abuse. Investigators say it happened on July 21st, but parents went to police on August 7th. When did the daycare notify the parents? Katelyn Strohacker is free on $50,000 bond. The supervisor who has been fired was not identified by the daycare. It's not clear if that person will face any criminal charges.
There's a certain moment every parent knows. It happens right at the front door. You kneel down, fix a jacket, maybe wipe a nose, and then you hand your child over to someone else and say, "I love you, be good today." A pretty simple moment, a normal, everyday moment. But that handoff depends on one thing: trust. In the town of Pataskala, great state of Ohio, that trust wasn't just broken, it collapsed. Inside a place called Over the Rainbow Children's Center, parents believed that their toddlers were safe. The daycare touted structured schedules, bright walls, and a highly capable and certified staff. This seemed to be the brochure version of peace of mind, but behind that picture, something else was happening. There wasn't any headlines to gasp at from the start. It all started with questions. Why is my child acting different? Why the sudden fear? Why the silence? And then, like it often does in cases like this, the truth didn't come from a confession. It came from video. Prosecutors say Katelyn Strohacker, 23, abused multiple toddlers while employed at this daycare. Not once, not twice. Prosecutors allege this was a pattern.
3-year-old Katelyn Strohacker facing 19 felony counts now. She appeared in court but had little to say. The former daycare worker walked into court with her attorney to face a magistrate. That is after being indicted on 19 counts, 5 counts of kidnapping and 14 of child endangering. It all stems from what investigators say happened here at the Over the Rainbow Child Care Center in Pataskala. According to prosecutors, and this complaint filed with the state agency that oversees daycares, Strohacker used tape to restrain a child. The abuse was observed through video. On that video, Strohacker is seen wrapping tape around a toddler's ankles and wrist and then placing a piece of tape over the child's eyes and leaving the child unattended for an hour. The report says the same staff member was also observed aggressively pulling on the child's arms.
Counsel, did she get a copy of the indictment?
She has, Your Honor. We would acknowledge receipt of the indictment, waive its reading, and enter pleas of not guilty to all counts.
That complaint says that Strohacker was permitted to continue caring for the child almost 2 weeks before action was taken. All of that led parents to ask serious questions when this came to light in August.
How did this even happen? Just how did it go so far into that? How did they get that far into that? That's my concern.
Strohacker was fired. So was her supervisor. Strohacker is the only one charged right now. She'll remain free on bond. She'll have to wear a GPS monitor. Her attorney didn't want to talk on camera, but says that Strohacker is living with her parents and argues that Strohacker is not a flight risk. The parents of the young victim also in court today. They did not want to talk on camera.
Children showed multiple instances. A small hand pinched deliberately in a cabinet. Toddlers restrained with tape. More than one instance. One child left bound, face down under a blanket for nearly an hour. Now let that sink in. This was control. It was an evil choice to exact a criminal level of power and control over children in a daycare. And that's what makes this hard to process, because chaos is unpredictable. Control? Now that's a damn choice. We've learned that these facilities have layers and layers of oversight, policies, procedures, and safeguards. On paper, this is supposed to be Fort Knox. In reality, those safeguards are probably nothing more than a glorified suggestion box. When this reached the courtroom, the language changed. It became less legal and more human. Parents had to describe things no parent should have to explain.
A 31-count indictment.
Personally, we hope that you spend the rest of your life in prison and you're never allowed to be alone with children ever again.
A measure of justice for families still living with trauma.
I would end this by saying, may God have mercy on your soul, but I can't, because we pray he doesn't.
Emotions ran high as Katelyn Strohacker was sentenced to 8 to 12 years in prison for abusing children at Over the Rainbow Children's Center. Parents telling the judge about the horror inflicted on their young children.
The hardest part is that I may never fully understand the extent of what she endured. My daughter is too young to explain what happened to her. The unknown is something that I carry every day.
For our daughter, she's been trapped in a cycle of sleep regression and night terrors. At 2 years old,
Ms. Strohacker moved my daughter to a spot out of camera view for nap time, where my baby was heard screaming for me, her daddy, and her dogs, following what sounded like a strike of some sort.
Strohacker had pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but was ruled competent to stand trial.
No amount of time will ever be enough for what she did to my son and the other 7 toddlers.
Families say while the sentence is a step forward, the healing process will take a lot longer.
And that's the part that doesn't show up in sentencing guidelines or anything like that. A definitive ruling by the judge in this case. A closed case on paper. But the question in my mind that lingers is this. Not just how did this happen, but how long did it take to notice? Because patterns don't build overnight. They develop in the gaps, in the blind spots, in systems where folks foolishly assume everything is working until it's shown that it isn't. And that's our report. This was a Plug Power Network production. Thank you all for stopping in. Thank you to the new subscribers to the channel. We appreciate your support. We hope you stick around.